This is the brand new Rolls-Royce Cullinan, the new Rolls-Royce SUV. Back in July, I gave you a thorough tour of the new Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and I showed you all of its interesting quirks and cool features. But that was a pre-production model, so I couldn't drive it. Today, I'm going to show you a few more interesting quirks and features of this Cullinan. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a Doug score. I've borrowed this Cullinan from O'Gara La Jolla, which is the Rolls-Royce dealership here in the San Diego area, and also the Bentley dealership and the Lamborghini dealer and the Bugatti dealer, and O'Gara recently added a McLaren dealership as well, meaning they have just about all of the cool stuff, and that includes the Cullinan, which is now officially on sale to the public. Before I get behind the wheel, a little refresher. The Cullinan is the first ever Rolls-Royce SUV, and it's currently the most expensive SUV on sale. It's essentially a jacked up Rolls-Royce Phantom with a cargo area, and it shares the Phantom's engine, a V12 with 563 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. Those are massive numbers, and also massive is the Cullinan's price tag. This thing starts at $325,000, and options can take things up from there. With that in mind, time to look at some interesting quirks and features of this one, and then get it out on the road and drive it. I'm going to start this quick tour with a look at the window sticker. Here you can see the $325,000 starting price of this thing, but this one is equipped with $90,000 in options up to an MSRP of $416,000. That figure a few years ago would have been considered unfathomably expensive for an SUV, but now we're in a world where everyone has an SUV, Lamborghini, Maserati, Bentley, and now Rolls-Royce, and it costs over 400 grand when equipped like this. Now, one of the things you're probably noticing is the interior, and you're thinking, what exactly is this? Is that white? No, not white. This is a very light blue called Charles Blue. Now, I'm not sure who Charles was, but he clearly had a sense of humor. This is a very interesting and vibrant, shall we say, color. It is actually very cool and a lot more distinctive than the usual blacks and tans and whites that you see in car interiors, but it is not common that you see a bright blue interior in any car, let alone a $400,000 Rolls-Royce. Now, the interior color may split opinions. I personally like it. I'm in a lot of cars and I always see the same basic colors, and so anything different is cool to me. But one thing that people won't argue about is the interior wood. The wood is absolutely beautiful in this car. It's this light wood. It appears only in a few sort of subtle places, the door panel, the center console, and in back a few places, but it is gorgeous. And it isn't fake, and it doesn't feel fake. When you touch it, you can clearly tell that it's wood. There's no ugly laminate over it. It's not crappy plastic. This is real wood, and it's attractive, and it feels like wood, and it enhances the experience of the Charles Blue interior. Next up, moving on to the rear of the Cullinan, you will find a few other interesting features that the Cullinan I reviewed back in July didn't have. For example, the blackout curtains. You've seen sunshades in cars to kind of keep the sunlight out of like babies' faces if you have them in the back. Well, this thing takes sunshades a step further. Press a little button on the door panel, and then the blackout curtains automatically close over the window, covering it completely. And then you have a separate set of blackout curtains. These are manual for the rear quarter window, and if you close them all, you can completely escape from all the plebeians driving around in regular automobiles, such as the Range Rover. It would be an incredible escape back here, being chauffeur-driven with all of your shades closed in your own personal Rolls-Royce bubble. And the luxurious rear features go well beyond the curtains. You see this giant wood panel in between the seats? Well, that's a fridge, and not just any fridge, but if you open it up, you can see it's specifically designed to keep your champagne bottle cool, so you can celebrate whatever economic success you've just had as you're chauffeured around in your Cullinan. Now, in the middle, between the two seats down here, you have a separate storage area. This one can again hold your champagne bottle, but also two little glasses that you can keep chilled while you're driving along in case you no longer want to hold them in your hand. Finally, at the very front front of this center storage compartment, you have more wood, and if you press this little silver button, it opens this wood panel to reveal the controls for the rear seat infotainment system. I showed you that in more detail in the Phantom review I did back in April, and I'll link it in the description below. And another interesting luxury feature back here is this glass partition between the rear seats and the cargo area. You already have your curtains that you can close to keep yourself away from all the regular people, but you also have a piece of glass separating you from your cargo, just in case you can't lower yourself to be in the same space as whatever it is you're transporting on your journey. Actually, the truth is that that glass partition is probably there to make it a little bit quieter inside the car and keep out any noises from the cargo compartment. Still, it's crazy to see it back there because it essentially means you have two pieces of glass, one directly behind the rear seats and one behind the cargo area on the outside of the car. Now, one other item I want to mention while I'm filming this video is the spirit of ecstasy. Every time I do a video with a brand new Rolls-Royce, I always get people tweeting me, Instagramming me, Facebooking me, telling me that I've forgotten a quirk, and that is that if you walk up to the spirit of ecstasy and try to grab it, it'll retract back into the car as an anti-theft mechanism. Now, I've seen a video on YouTube demonstrating this, but I've tried it on every new Rolls-Royce that I have reviewed, and it doesn't work. I don't know if it just isn't in this market, if it's an option, if the car has to be on or in a certain mode, but I've never actually seen it work, and I'm not about to start yanking on this thing any harder than this to give it a try. So for all of those of you who are telling me that I've missed this, I haven't. I just don't know that it really exists on the cars I'm reviewing. All right, driving the Cullinan. Driving it along, it feels every bit as Rolls-Royce-ish as you would want. It is just wonderful. Huge, to be sure. It's big. In fact, I kind of feel like driving this like I do when I'm driving a full-size truck. You gotta kind of make sure you're in your lane. You know, you gotta keep an eye on that side of the car because it's very big. The most obvious thing, I think, when I'm driving it, of course, is just how comfortable and smooth it is. The interior is just monstrously comfortable. The seats perfectly fit. They're very soft, plush, just fantastic seats. And it's just so smooth. The ride quality is tremendously smooth, but also it's just so quiet. It just wafts down the road like a Phantom does, but it's an SUV. It's just, the thing that you just can't get over is the fact that it is simply so relaxing, comfortable. Wafting is really the term. Now, the Phantom is all those things, but this then is, you know, another eight inches up, whatever it is where you're sitting. And so you really have a commanding position in this car. And you just feel like you absolutely own the world in this thing. Windows up, you hear nothing. You don't hear cars accelerating as they're sweeping across your field of vision. You don't hear anything. You are just completely relaxed. All right, I'm gonna give it a little gas here and see how it goes with some acceleration. Wow. Whoa, that's way fast. That is way, way faster than it should be, considering what we're talking about here. That was quite impressive. It's just so nice. And when you look out over that Rolls-Royce hood ornament, I mean, I would, just like most car SUV situations these days, I don't really understand who is still buying these cars, and I guess it's traditionalists, but this thing to me is every bit as good as the Phantom, but it also has, you know, a higher seating position, more capabilities if you plan to take your Cullinan off-road, and it obviously is more practical with the cargo area versus a sedan. And so to me, this is the vehicle that I would get if I were shopping for the most ridiculously luxurious, waftable experience, and I wanted to look down on everyone else. And so that's the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. This is the world's most expensive SUV, yes, but it's also the world's most luxurious. The SUV for the kind of people who get a Range Rover for the gardener and a Bentayga for the maid. This is the Rolls-Royce of SUVs, and it has the driving experience to match. And now it's time to give this car a Doug score.
Starting with the weekend categories and styling, I think the Cullinan is handsome, but its design has split opinions. It gets a 6 out of 10. Acceleration does 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, which is good for a 6 out of 10. Handling is fine and secure, but slow and vague. No surprise given how big it is, and it gets a 4 out of 10. Fun factor is only okay. It drives a lot like an SUV, which is a compliment since that's what it is, but it removes some of the ridiculousness of a car like the Phantom, which feels like you're driving around a head of state. It gets a 5 out of 10, and cool factor is the same. This thing is cool, but an SUV in general just has a bit more of a soccer mom suburb vibe going on than a sedan with the kind of presence the Phantom has. The Cullinan gets a 7 out of 10 for a weekend score of 28 out of 50. Next up are the daily categories and features. The Cullinan is loaded and only misses out on some sort of major innovation to give it a perfect score. Instead, it gets a 9 out of 10. Comfort is the best in the business and it gets a 10 out of 10. Quality is strong, but it'll always get a demerit due to potential reliability troubles, and it gets a 9 out of 10. Practicality is high, though it could be higher. The Cullinan I drove has the fridge and the partition, which removes rear seat space and cargo room, so it only gets a 7 out of 10. Finally, value. The Cullinan I drove was nearly $420,000, which is just insane money, even if it is the Rolls-Royce of SUVs. I'd probably get one if I had infinite money, but it's hard to justify otherwise, and it gets a 5 out of 10 for a total daily score of 40 out of 50. Added up, and the Doug score is 68 out of 100, and here's how it compares to other ultra-luxury cars. It ties the Phantom and beats out the Bentayga. The Bentayga wins the weekend categories, but the Cullinan is a better daily car due to its immense comfort and better tech. The Cullinan therefore gets the highest Doug score of SUV, and it better since it's also the most expensive.
I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna show you what I'm made of. I can see you.